city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Keys to the City, Clovercrest Media, I should say, presents Keys to the City on a very special episode, 9/11. Thank you, Joseph Aguirre, the host of the Roll Call, part of the Keys to the City family as well, for that very nice clip, and he'll be joined with us in just a brief moment. We're going to be talking about last night's opener from start to finish. An amazing job by the NFL, an amazing job by the Chiefs, and the Texans. They got some work to do. We'll talk about that offensive line.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do a lot. Deshaun Watson has been running for his life. He's got a long season ahead of him. We'll get into that. And we're going to talk about my LA Lakers. We were going to talk baseball, but the Yankees got postponed. We'll talk about that over the weekend. My LA Lakers is looking like Hollywood's going to be meeting up in the Western Conference Finals. And then you got three teams in the Eastern Conference that are very similar, the blue chip type style of play. We'll talk about that. The NBA looks great. But, Joseph, if you want to come join us right now, join us, please. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for that clip. I appreciate it, as always.
Of course.
You think about it, 19 years ago today. This is a day that we'll never forget. I remember calling my father the day of and didn't know. I was too young. Remember, I'm younger than you guys, so I didn't know what was going on at the time. I saw it, and it was a day that us All-Americans, and I say us, all Americans, will never forget. This is a day that you felt like we were one as a country, and it hasn't been like that in a long time. But I just remember that day. I just want to say we will never forget. We will always remember all those heroes, the first responders. Thank you. And to all the people that lost their lives, we will never forget you. I don't know what you guys were. You were in high school? Were you in middle school or high school?
High school. Freshman English class in the library. Mrs. Pinto. Working on a project for Romeo and Juliet, which I didn't finish till 2 weeks later at the Giants game. Then when I came home late. But yeah, I remember freshman English class, 9:05. Actually, because I was stupid, somebody goes, the Twin Towers just got hit with an plane, and I was like, oh, the one in Chicago. I was like, oh no, that's the Sears Tower, dummy. But no, I do remember. Yeah, because and then they sent us home. They were like, any parents who wanted to come up pick up their kids. Of course, my parents didn't pick me up. They left me at school until 2:00. So I take the bus home, but there was no practice that day. Football practice.
Yeah, so everything was canceled. That was the day that everything was canceled. And Joe, what were you? What were you up to?
Well, here's a crazy story. I was working in Portland, Maine at the time, and the radio station was directly across the street from the hotel where Muhammad Atta actually left Portland from, the jetport right by where I worked. And oddly enough, I was actually outside that night. The Giants were playing the Denver Broncos, and I was arguing with one of our news anchors about when the next terrorist attack was going to come to the United States because of our policies in the Middle East. I assumed it was coming, didn't expect to wake up the next day. You know, I won't say it's funny, but, you know, plenty of planes had hit the World Trade Center. You know, obviously Corey Lytle of the Yankees crashed a plane. And I remember I worked nights and I stayed up late. But when I got up in the morning, my wife had the news on and I heard them saying a plane had hit the World Trade Center. And I thought small plane. I wasn't thinking anything big. And I was lying in bed, and when the second plane hit,
that's when you knew.
I jumped out of bed, man. I knew
that's when you knew it was something more serious, and it's amazing. I mean, like, you just got to be thankful, and I feel like we're not thankful enough nowadays. Well, we have to be very appreciative of each other. Tell your loved ones you love them, give them a hug. Because you just never know. Well, you really just don't ever know, especially what's going on in today's world right now with this whole pandemic and what's going on in the country. You just never know.
Well, that's what I said to one of my coworkers this morning. I was like, well, I guess it doesn't beat, the extra 35 minutes you have to wait in line for Oh no, sorry,
traffic, being in traffic.
No,
or
not
just
not traffic.
or just in general.
No, going through the airline security. Now people complain like, "Oh my God, the line's at the." Well, what time did you get there, you idiot? If your flight was at 11, you got there at 9:30. You're late. You should have got there at 8:30.
You just got to be.
And you would have got through. And it makes the differences of of things like that. Why we have security measures, because there's crazy people in the world,
and we just got to be thankful. So
and they don't like us.
It's just it's I can't believe it's already 19 years. I can't believe it's already 19 years to the day that this tragic event happened.
Have you ever visited the site or the memorial? Because
but I would love to.
I might do it.
I have, yeah.
I would love.
You
to.
have?
Is it?
Yep.
Is it beautiful?
Oh yeah. Oh, you definitely got to see it. I mean, you'll. I mean, I'm a crier anyway. As far as I haven't started crying yet. But yeah,
I got to the crash site though, Joe, when they were still cleaning up. My uncle Bernard, my dad, and us, we were all going to a Giant game. We used to go on Saturday nights, and then Sunday we go to games. So Saturday night we go down. My dad, I was much younger, so my dad would take me down, and my uncle Bernard had tickets. Like 4 guys would go get food and whatever. Well, he was like, "Come on, I want to take you." And we walked, and he was able to talk to the cop, and the cop let us go in. I mean, we were still like a football field away, but you could see still everything, the lights and the guys working, the cranes and the rubble. It was pretty wild to think like, oh man, like that was right there. That was like 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
Let's just say you're never forgotten. It's a day we will never forget. And can't believe it's already 19 years. So everybody that has lost a loved one in that tragic event, we're thinking of you today.
You were a youngin' boy.
I was very young. I didn't have facial hair. You probably still had the same haircut and facial hair as in high
Joe,
school.
and you had
and Joe had
one kid or no? You had no kids?
My older daughter, who is 19, was about 10 months old when this happened. Yeah.
Wow. Now look at you.
You're a house
You got a beautiful beard. Joe.
Now I've got 9 kids.
Joe's trying to like match me right now. I got the hair, the beard. I love it. Well, let's get into it. Last night,
real quick, I haven't shaved or cut my hair since I shaved my head back in February.
Wow, so the whole pandemic since COVID
just
started.
Been letting it go the whole time. That's where we're at.
Beautiful. Head and shoulders works good for you, Joe. That's beautiful. That is a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing last night. We had NFL football, and we had everything. We had everything for the first time, and since I've been alive. We had all major sports playing last night. College football you had as well. NBA, MLB, NHL, MLS, WNBA. Golf was on. And then the nightcap, the big one. The one that we all thought at a certain point there was not going to be. It was going to be nearly impossible. Well, the impossible. I know you did. Right before you texted me, said, "Can you believe it's actually starting on time?" And I can't. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a time that I really thought there was going to be no football. I really stood here and said it to multiple people. It was going to be impossible.
Remember I said it was going to happen?
Guess what? The impossible was beaten last night. There was NFL football, and it was a tremendous opener. It was great. It was just what you wanted. The thing that hit me the most, seeing the 16,000 fans and how the NFL spaced them out perfectly and how that crowd actually had some sort of impact in that game. There was noise. That crowd was great. That game was, I guess, up and down at times. It was sloppy at first.
Think weather played a factor?
The weather always plays a factor in that. But we're going to get into the whole Texans, and not just because of the weather affected that team, but a whole different thing. The offensive line. Yeah, it's just I got an itch right now. But the Chiefs, they come in, they take care of business. Boy, oh boy, that team is going to be, right off the bat, that team is going to be hard to beat. And that repeat, I mean,
very likely.
He looked amazing. But the real star to me, I know Mahomes is Mahomes. Mahomes is going to be Mahomes. He's the superstar of the league. He's the face of the league. The star last night was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And the reason why I say that, he wasn't even involved in the passing game. And this was a guy that is a very good dual threat back. He was amazing at LSU last year, had 1,000 yards rushing, as well as up there in receiving. Did he have 1,000 out?
Or close to it.
He was very productive for an LSU team that was dominant. He comes to a Super Bowl winning team now with the best quarterback in the game, with the highest maybe octane offense in the entire league, and one of the top 3 coaches in the league. And he was the star last night. 25 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown. He was impressive. The Texans had no answer for him. And boy, oh boy, if that man stays healthy, good luck, NFL. That means good luck to the Baltimore Ravens, too, because I know the Ravens are going to be very exciting to see this year. But with that Chiefs team, we already know how great it is. if they have a Clyde Edward-Helaire that plays like this, like a Brian Westbrook, who Andy Reid loves backs like this.
Oh boy!
But he runs. We're going to see we're going to forget about the Patriots of 03-04. We're going to be talking about the Chiefs 19 and 20 as repeat champs.
But he runs hard. They were talking in an article. Travis Kelce says for a guy that's about 5'9", the same size as us, and
he's a beast.
About 208, 209 pounds.
He lowers his shoulder.
He runs hard. If you remember the one run late in the fourth quarter, breaking the tackle, running, he was about. Colin said he was about 6 inches off the ground. He hit the.
He looked like Joe, but he was holding the ball right, Joe.
That's hurtful.
Listen, I was impressed last night. I thought the Chiefs seemed very smooth for a team that not had any preseason. Now, a lot can be said that, hey, listen, there's almost the majority of the guys are back from last year's team. I think everyone's back except for 2 pieces total between the 20. I think they have 20 of the 22.
Williams is like
20 of the 22 and the guard.
Yes, the guard and Damian Williams,
who has an MD. But to see that team come out as smooth as they did was very impressive because listen, we were not sure as a whole what football was going to look like last night. We knew it was going to be football, but like I said to one of the guys last night, I said not many penalties in the first half, pretty smooth game. You know, you wasn't sure how the game really was. It going to be stiff, a lot of penalties. Guys going to get
that
hurt.
game went very smoothly. It was. Do you know the first half took only about an hour and 15 minutes? It was a quick first half, very quick. There was not a lot of penalties. It was very smooth, Joe. And to answer your question, I do not see the Chiefs. They asked this yesterday on ESPN NFL Live. The Chiefs are not going undefeated. I just don't see them playing out an entire season. They don't need to. They're going to be a top 2 seed. I could see them going. I had them going 13-3 as a top 2 seed. I do not see them going undefeated because Andy Reid will not play that style, and they don't need to.
Can I ask you one
question? They're going
to
get home field advantage, whether that's the 1 or the 2 seed. It doesn't matter. They're not going to. And the more pressure.
Hold on.
On top of
I need to interrupt, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I have to. I think there's a real possibility. Now, Week 3 is the biggest game for both teams, and that's the Ravens versus Chiefs. Because at the end of the season, if these teams are tied, whoever has that win against each other is going to have that advantage. Now, you said it doesn't matter 1 and 2 seed. It does this year.
Well, if they keep winning, if both teams keep winning, yes, then yes, they have to. Yes.
If they keep winning, one of them's got to beat each other in Week 3.
Yes.
But with that being said, say the Ravens do win Week 3. It's home game. They win. They're trying to get the rebuttal after the Chiefs beat them last year at home. Okay. They're both 13-3, or 12-3 with the late game of the season. You would say, hey, most seasons you would rest your guys Week 16. The Ravens might do the same. What if the Ravens rest and the Chiefs win? They get this year. The difference between the 1 and 2 seed is a week off, and that's huge because you only have to win 2 games.
The better question I would ask you, Joseph,
does anyone go undefeated?
No, not even that. It's kind of like the Lakers and Clippers. Are we on a collision course for Chiefs Ravens AFC title? Which is the better question for that instead of Chiefs going undefeated? My question would be to come back is, are we on the collision course of Ravens, Lamar against Mahomes?
I'll base it like this. What's more likely, Ravens, Chiefs, or the field
Joe,
getting into
I feel like we do this all the time. Joe, get involved.
Look, yeah, I think Ravens, Chiefs. I think the Chiefs for sure. You know, obviously the Ravens are going to – we'll have to see what they've got cooking, but no reason to think that they won't go out there and take care of business and dispatch their opponents like the Chiefs did. Chiefs have won 10 regular season games in a row, too, so don't forget that. And I understand what you're saying, too, about, look, late in the season, I know Andy Reid has a propensity to sit guys and those last couple of games if they don't matter. But what if you're 14-0 going into those last 2 games?
If both teams are still winning, other than that one game on Week 3, if they're still winning, yeah, you got to play because you want to have home field. And this team is going to have fans in the stadium. From other teams that are going to be different, like we know the Giants and Jets, they're not playing with fans this year. The Chiefs, they're going to play with fans. Now, that could either grow, too, as well. We started off with 16,000. That's 22% capacity. Maybe they move up. Maybe it goes up a little higher as the season progresses. We don't know. But I agree with you. If both teams are winning, then, yes, it's a possibility. That Week 3 matchup is going to be so exciting.
Huge.
The last time the Chiefs lost, actually, Joe, we were all together. We were all hanging out at my house for my birthday. They lost on November 10th.
That's right.
That was the last time they lost a regular season game.
That was a great game.
That was an unbelievable game.
That was Hardman had that unbelievable catch. It was a jump pass. It was a jump pass by Mahomes.
Tannehill ran right down and scored. It was an unbelievable game.
The Giants also the Jets that did too.
The thing that's scary about this team is what the Texans did last night. The Texans, we were reading an article. Ted showed me an article. The Texans were running a lot of man-to-man last year in their 2 matchups. So they decided to go zone last night, So they take away the deep threat, take away Tyreek Hill, take away who eventually had a touchdown, Kelsey, Sammy Watkins, who had another touchdown as well too.
But all underneath routes, all three touchdowns were under 6
was
yards.
the underneath route, kind of like what the Patriots do. What Brady did, picking apart little intermediate routes. They picked them apart. He was efficient last night. He was 24-32, 211, had 3 touchdowns. Actually, that's the 3rd straight year he's had 3 touchdowns and no picks in a season opener. By the way, first player ever.
Yes.
Yep.
So last night he didn't beat them. His longest completion was 19 yards. He didn't beat them with the over-the-top big throw to Tyreek Hill or Sammy Watkins. No, he beat them in the intermediate game. And that's what's even scarier, too.
Well, it's not
scary. Because once Mahomes, and you heard him last year, I didn't really start figuring out NFL defenses. So,
but that's him not forcing
That's scary to know what this guy can do already. If he starts picking them apart in the intermediate game, it's game over for the rest of the NFL.
But that's teams saying, you know what? We'd rather see you dink and dunk for 10 yards than hit us with a 70-yard
look what the Patriots did.
No,
the Patriots have done it for 20 years, and look how they did. I think.
But they also didn't have the weapons that the Chiefs have in speed-wise. I mean,
no, that's true. But I think we could all say that's short intermediate.
So what that says about Mahomes is a maturity level and a patience level. And Andy Reid came on last night. You didn't see it. I saw it this morning. He said Mahomes being able to be mature enough to take what is given and not force it down the field. And I think that speaks volumes to what you were stating and saying, hey, listen, this guy, we know what he can do, Trev. He throws 70-yard bombs off his back foot. Tyreek Hill is faster than a cheetah. I mean, but to be able to hit the 10-yard routes and the 7-yard routes and be efficient, like you said, when you stated, what was he,
24-32.
32.
That's efficient to me.
8 incompletions. You know, he was only sacked once last night, which speaks another volume of where the Kansas City offense is. He had plenty of time. They ran the ball for over 100 yards. It's a beautiful thing to see because when you see offenses that are this smooth, it's enjoyable as a fan to watch. This is what you want to see. You don't like to see the 2 yards in a cloud of dust and you feel like you're grinding every inch out. You want fluidity. You want smoothness. To be able to just hand the ball off, 4 yards of carry, throw the ball. It just speaks volume of how dangerous this team is. And something that I think the Ravens have to understand, if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to score them, but you also have to control the clock because they can score at will, and we know that.
And the good thing about this Chiefs team is that they got all their major players signed for a while. Their GM signed for a while. Their quarterback's not going anywhere. Their coach isn't going anywhere. They signed their tight end. They're going to get I think they have Tyreek Hill for another couple of years. They have Hilaire for another. They have all their major pieces going for Chris Jones. They signed to a long-term extension as well. All their players that they need, their big-time guys, their go-to guys, they're signed.
So they should be good for the next 3 to 5 years.
They're sitting pretty. And like you said, well, they're going to make you beat them with the short. Well, guess what? The Patriots, the short intermediate routes, they did that for 20 years. Let's see how they did. I think they did good, Joe. They think they're good for the past 20 years, the Patriots, of that style.
But their defense was a big product of how successful the Patriots were. Because when you don't give up a lot of points, you don't have to score a lot.
Joe, what are your takeaways from last night's game? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you wonder why that game went by so quickly, go right to that 16-play, 91-yard drive. Took 9 minutes and 4 seconds off the clock. So the idea that dinks and dunks, I mean, again, you guys are alluding to the fact that this team's got great speed. They've got so many weapons, right? Yeah, you add Clyde St-Hilaire to the mix, and my goodness gracious, this team is like loaded now.
They're lethal because of the balance they're going to have now with Hilaire in the back.
No matter whose hands you get the ball in right now for the Texans, I mean, you're going to get a whole bunch of yards, and if they put together games like this, you're not even going to get the ball. See, I think back to the old Buffalo Bills of the late 90s.
The thing that's even
Reed, Thurman Thomas, and Lofton, James Lofton, and Jim Kelly. Now, they didn't have the tight end because the tight end wasn't that type of – he was a blocker. He was an extension of the offensive line.
Tight ends are very valuable now in the offense.
And they talked about it last night. And because Zach Ertz, I saw last night, says he's frustrated with his contract because he feels he should be paid like a Kelsey and Kittle. And I believe that's so. And we've talked about this with Evan Ingram as the New York Giants. The tight end right now is such a dangerous weapon because he's a faster. He's bigger. He's the big receiver, okay? But he can block. He's a matchup nightmare. I mean, you just look at the top tight ends and what they could do controlling the center of the field. Gronk. I mean, look what you said the Patriots. Yeah. And I'm not getting off subject, but look when they had the 2 tight ends with Hernandez and Gronk and how dangerous they were. And they didn't need speedsters like the Chiefs had. And you just think about what Kelsey does and what Kittle does and what Zach Ertz does to these teams. It just makes them so much more dynamic. But Joe, you did say the Texans, and I know Trev's going to get into it because you were saying I think you meant the Chiefs and you said the Texans about just give the ball to any of the players. But I made a comment last night on Twitter, and I'm not trying to get away from the Chiefs, but just transferring a little bit to the Texans. I wanted to just say one thing, and I'll let you finish that. Was seeing the Texans last night. First drive looked okay. Well, they punted, and then they scored the next drive with David Johnson. And we don't know what David Johnson is going to be this year. We know what he was 3 years ago before he sustained injuries. But I made a comment last night that I think having DeAndre Hopkins last night could have been a helpful piece to the Texans. They're giving them the better chance. If somebody goes, well, they didn't have any offensive line. And you're right. He got sacked 4 times last night, Watson. But, when you have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins or a guy like Tyreek Hill who are on the outside, you can't guard him with one guy. You have to guard him with 2, which means there's one less guy in the box, which means you take away a spy from the quarterback, or your defense is to play on their heels instead of being on their toes. And I think that puts a lot more pressure on Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans.
Joe, do you want to come in? Do you have anything to say?
Oh, yeah, look, I mean, this Kansas City Chiefs team is in my opinion one of the best teams I think we've seen in the last 10, 15 years. And I definitely think this team's got a chance to repeat.
Offensively or as a whole, bud?
Offensively, yes. I mean, and as a team, I mean, look, I think their defense is good. It's not great. It's not a great defense, but I don't think it's going to need to be. And again, I think if the first 2 scoring drives, 27 plays, 166 yards, 14:45 time of possession. That's why the first half seemed so fast. KC just had the ball.
That's half right there. That's the whole drive. That's a half. Yeah, that's a whole quarter. That's a whole quarter.
That's literally an entire quarter on 2 drives. And look, the Texans probably have a better defense than the Chiefs do, but the close.
Maybe it's because that offense is that good.
Chiefs are head and shoulders a better team than the Texans, and that was pretty clear to me last night.
And no, 100%. I mean, the Chiefs look like they're going nowhere for a long time. That team is scary. They got speed all over the place, and now they have a very, very good running back that just wait until you get him involved in that passing game. Boy, that Chiefs team, good luck to the rest of the AFC, because right now, to me, we haven't seen Baltimore yet. We don't know how they're going to look against a pretty interesting team on Sunday, the Cleveland Browns. That should be a fun game to watch. But right now, to me, that looks like that AFC, kind of like the Colts and Patriots for so long, is going to be a 2-team race for this entire season. I don't see anybody else competing in the AFC against those 2 teams. It's going to be one or the other that's going to Tampa this year, plain and simple. The Chiefs look amazing. They look really good. They haven't even gotten started, too. I mean, just wait until they start throwing the deep ball, and this team is going to have all the possibilities of breaking a lot of records this year. Mahomes, I would have loved to take him in fantasy. Really would have, because I just think he's going to bounce back.
Obi looks pretty good taking him number 1, huh, Joe?
Yeah, he took – and then Hilaire. I asked Joe. Joe had a chance to take Hilaire.
Who took Hilaire?
I don't know. I don't remember. But whoever got them, this team looks very scary. And you mentioned the defense last night, the Chiefs' defense. Well, that defensive line looked pretty damn good last night. Maybe it's more credit to how bad the offensive line in Houston Texans. I want to get into that because I've talked about this for quite some time, and we have people on the show that says offensive lines are not a big deal in the NFL. And I've said, well, look at Russell Wilson. Yeah, Russell Wilson's amazing, but he's still getting his ass kicked sometimes. Kyler Murray's amazing because he can run, but he gets his ass kicked. We had this issue in New York with Eli Manning because of the fact, well, he can't move. He's a stone in the pocket, but the offensive line was so bad. Last night was just another perfect example of why I believe the offensive line is the most valuable position, not named the quarterback, because of the fact I don't care who it is. We saw Deshaun Watson. What does Deshaun Watson do great? He improvises. He makes plays. He made one of the coolest throws I've ever seen, throwing the ball when he threw it off his legs, and he was up in the air and he threw it completed. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful throw, but the entire night, I know he got sacked 4 times, but it seemed like he was under duress the entire game. He had 6 plays of under 2 seconds being pressured. 2 seconds. Think about that.
2 seconds.
That's 2 seconds right there. So he already has Frank Clark, Chris Jones, one of those guys already in his face, not being able to make the throws. Now, Ted, I'll agree with you in the sense of Having no DeAndre Hopkins is a major loss. Anytime you lose a top 3 receiver and one of the best weapons in the game is a huge deal. But when you don't have time in the pocket, I don't care who the hell your weapon is. You're not going to be able to get the ball to him. And
you wrote it down. He was only pressured 35% of the time. Now, Joe, when I say only
that's still a lot compared to what Mahomes was 18%. So think of the drop off right there. Why Mahomes looked great, and I know he had a lot of. I know he had a lot of short.
Can I also say this? And I'm not. And then you come back at me. Mahomes threw the ball only 33 times. But Watson threw the ball 44 times, and the reason why was because David Johnson, that offense, could not run the ball. See, how many times did Clyde Hilaire run the ball last night?
25 times.
25 times, and they ran the ball efficiently, didn't they, Joe?
Yeah.
For 130 yards. Did the Texans run the ball efficiently? No. So if you can't run the ball,
they did. They actually averaged.
He had 11 carries,
but not throughout the
David
game.
Johnson was
right. Well,
carries.
again, listen. This is what happens to a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. I think when you find yourself trailing in a game, they average 5.4 yards per carry for the game, which is really good. But when you're down 17,
it didn't feel like that. David Johnson like that, right? Looks great in
right. It certainly didn't. He definitely look early on. He carried the ball well. It looked good. Once they fell behind, though, you lose the run when you're the Texans in this game. And Watson doesn't quite have, I think, all the tools to compete in a game like this. I mean, he's clearly still in that.
They've been trailing a lot, though. They were only down 17-7, so they could have still stuck to the run game. I mean, 11 carries, 77 yards, and a touchdown, David Johnson's numbers. You look at that, he could have had about 20, 25 carries. It's not like they were they were down 24-7, but I felt like they got away from the run game a little too soon.
Yeah.
Because
once they went down 24-7, it was all over for them as far as trying to run the football. And that's a huge mistake. They don't have the line for it. It got messy. It got messy when they got behind, and it's not surprising, unfortunately. I love Deshaun Watson.
But here's another thing. I want to agree with your point.
First game against real competition, though. Also, we got to take into account. And that's why it's good. And we spoke about it in the first 15 minutes. You speak about the volume of how well the Chiefs looked last night. Yeah. To look like they were already 3, 4, 5 games into the season on the first game is pretty incredible.
That's scary.
Where the Texans, like listen, this line, supposedly, we read an article and I said to you, this is supposed to be the best offensive line Houston has provided for Deshaun Watson so far in his career. Right. Suppose that's that's what the experts say. That's what FPP says. But
FPP. Well,
yeah,
players for that's fine.
How I love.
Here's my thing.
It just makes it much harder. And Joe, you said it right. When you're down 31-13. It makes it harder to keep the ball running when you need to score now. Because here's the thing: if you score now, how do you know the Chiefs ain't scoring now too? Late.
I understand what you're saying, but it wasn't to a point that they were only down 17-7. They could have still sustained some run game. Also, what you said, I was trying to agree with your point of the DeAndre Hopkins thing. So the leading receiver last night was Will Fuller, 8 receptions. Their next closest was their running back David Johnson with 3 receptions. That's a problem. So I do agree with what Ted's saying that having no Deshaun Watson or DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a major blow. And we knew that once they made this trade. But if you have no offensive line, I don't care how good and athletic your quarterback is, and we've seen it over time. And last night was just another example of that. If they don't have no time, I don't care if your weapon is Jerry Rice. You're not going to get the ball to him. It's just that simple. When you're getting under pressure, 6 plays under 2 seconds, you're getting pressured that much, and 35% of the time compared to your opposite at 18%, like, how is he supposed to survive? Like, are we looking at another Andrew Luck? Like, I hope to God not, because Deshaun Watson, just like Andrew Luck, is so talented and can really take this league by storm, but he just can't stay healthy. Andrew Luck I'm talking about, because how bad the offensive line. They were too late investing in the offensive line. Deshaun, they have been looking. They signed Tunsil. They got Titus Howard last year in the draft. They got to hope that, and they've been trading. They're losing all of these draft picks because of trading. And that's why I keep saying Bill O'Brien needs to get the hell out ASAP. He can't be the GM and he can't be the head coach.
You know who should be their next coach? Hold on.
And I don't want to see a player like Deshaun Watson get his years wasted. And he just signed a mega contract with this team. He's not going anywhere. I want to see Deshaun Watson there for a long time. I don't want to see Andrew Luck.
Hey,
plain and simple.
You know who should be their next head coach? They were
Who?
facing them last night. Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine?
Listen, that guy deserves a damn job.
Yes.
Put him on the Houston Texans as a head coach. Use his mind like Andy Reid's mind, and you have one of the most talented. I'll put Lamar with them in that same category as the most talented quarterbacks in the AFC. Those three are, I think, head and shoulders in the whole AFC.
It's like the Big Ben Peyton and
yes,
Brady
sir,
thing.
absolutely. But here's the thing: they're all super talented, like super talented in the sense of dual threat and arm talent. And I think if you put an Eric Bieniemy with that Houston Texans team, and you get a real GM, not a coach GM, a real GM who can pull some strings and be able to make some moves.
I mean, I would want to play with Deshaun Watson.
Why not?
Yeah.
Get another offensive lineman, get some draft picks, figure it out. I think they'll never be able to move away from J.J. Watt, but maybe trade J.J. Watt. See what you can get for him. He's an older guy. He has a lot of injury things. I know he has a contract.
All I know is,
but a team that maybe needs another big-time defensive player he's got 2 years left. I mean, if you're that close, if you're like the Dallas Cowboys or something, you not put J.J. Watt in the middle of your defensive line and change game changer. He's still a wrecking ball.
Joe, it's not.
You just got to think bigger picture, because J.J. Watt has been hurt multiple times in his career. Yeah. He's probably got 2 to 3 years left max. You're hoping Deshaun Watson's got 10. That's where your value has to go. Give up J.J. Watt or something. Sacrifice. See where the season goes.
It's okay to sacrifice sometimes.
I was shocked by them trading DeAndre Hopkins, but check this out. Last night, wide receivers for the Texans had 5 catches for 47 yards, with Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb both leading away with 2 catches and 20 and 19 yards, respectively.
And that's not
going to work.
They traded Brandon Cooks. Will Fuller, we know Will Fuller. He gets hurt all the time. Randall Cobb, though, I don't know why they didn't use him more. He played pretty well in Dallas. He's also had some injury concerns in the past, but it was not smooth, Joe.
Here's my thing.
It was chunky monkey friggin' peanut butter last night, and it wasn't the creamy, smooth peanut butter like the cheese.
Chunky monkey.
You know that thick?
Yeah, I know what you said. I do like chunky monkey sometimes. I do like that. Here's my thing. Kind of like the Giants, their schedule doesn't get any easier. They still have to play in the next 3 weeks. They got to play the Ravens. I'm not saying in any order, but the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Vikings. All 3 teams that have very good pass rush ability, like the Giants have to face with the 49ers, the Bears, and playing the Steelers on Monday. So it's going to be very tough for this Texans team, a team that just signed their quarterback, their franchise for the next 10 to 12 years, hopeful. And it's not going to look good. The Texans realistically could start off 0-4. I saw them finish in 7-9. I just didn't think they had enough. And last night, they have a lot of work to do. The Chiefs, they look like they're rolling. They look like they're still at Super Bowl 54, partying and ready to go again and having maybe a repeat. We could possibly be seeing a repeat this year in an odd year. But guess what? They look great. The Texans, boy, oh boy, they have a lot of work to do, that offensive line, and get David Johnson the ball because he did look good when he had the ball in his hands. I hope Deshaun Watson does not get killed with this line because he's so talented, and it ticks me off to see talent going to waste as well. Let's get over to Big Blue football quick. Now, we're not going to talk about the game on Monday. We're going to talk about that come Monday, and we're going to have a recap of Sunday's games, and then we're going to talk about the Monday night games as well. So the Giants had practice yesterday, a big week. They have a big team coming in, a tough challenge ahead on Monday night. They're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that Steelers defense is nasty. That team, we know what the Pittsburgh Steelers are all about. So what does the team do? They come out with a lackadaisical effort. And what does the great Joe Judge do? Man, I am all about Joe Judge. Everything about this man since coming in, since getting his press conference, I love Joe Judge. That's all I got to say. I love Joe Judge. He ripped the team, ripped them a new one, and restarted practice. So what do they do when they ask their best player, Saquon Barkley, how do you feel? Loved it. He replied, I loved it. Plain and simple. Now, he had more to say, but the first 2 words was, I loved it.
I'll read you exactly what he said.
What he said.
Loved it. Everything we do is going to have a purpose behind it. Coach didn't like how we started off, so we started over. And as captains and as leaders, as a team, we had to step up and challenge, and I think that's where we responded. The thing is that on Monday, there won't be no restarts. We got to find a way to produce. So
plain and simple, they're not coming. The Steelers are not coming in to play patty cake. They're coming in to rip Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and the rest of the team's heads off. They're coming in with a purpose. They have Big Ben back. This team feels like they have a lot to gain this year.
Juju Smith has been hurt.
They look like this team is ready to go. They have a bounce back year. They still finished 8-8 last year with terrible quarterback play. They're coming in hungry, and I love what Joe Judge's reaction was. Restarting practice. Let's get your head in the game. Get your head out of your asses. Let's go. The Steelers are not coming here to play tic-tac-toe. They're coming to rip your head off. Plain and simple. And Joe Judge, and if anybody still has a problem with Joe Judge, get off the Giants bandwagon fan. Stop being a Giant fan, because this is what we've been desperately needing and wanting for some time now, Joe.
And I want to have either of you ever had during your football careers?
Yes.
A practice restarted?
Yes.
No, I had we had a practice so bad the coaches walked off the field and said, "Figure it out yourself."
Been there myself. I've definitely had that happen. How were you practicing that led to that restart?
Played like garbage. We had garbage. We didn't care. We had a big week, and it was a defensive week. It was a defensive practice too. We didn't play. We didn't care. And the coaches I'm not going to say what they said, but a lot of swear words. And they restarted practice.
We didn't have a restart, but you restart the drill. Or you
we had a restart practice.
I guess what I'm saying is my bigger concern right now is where, and what's it, Friday? We're 3 days away from the Giants taking the field for the first time. And probably, what do they do? A walk? They'll practice a little bit today, right? Maybe a walkthrough.
Today, they'll practice a little tomorrow, and then the next 2 days will be like Sunday will be a walkthrough.
Supposedly, a lot of the Giants.
So assume yesterday was probably the last full practice.
Yeah, tomorrow will be like shoulder pads, and then a walkthrough Sunday.
So here's my concern: their last full practice before their first regular season game was going so poorly that Joe Judge had to restart practice. That makes me feel. I mean, I'm excited for Joe Judge. That's what we need around here.
That shouldn't worry you. Think about it as a player. You just go through these days. You know how those days you just kind of go through the motions. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's the nature of the human being.
Yeah, maybe mid-season, not leading up to opening day, and you're not.
I agree with Joe.
I've seen this in a practice, Joe. I've seen this in a walkthrough the night before a high school game.
But that's a walkthrough. This is the first.
And the coach is like, it's a walkthrough, but we still got to be business-like. See, I want to read one thing that I think is important, and it's from Blake Martinez. It says, "I've gotten so much better as a player in the past month of training camp than I ever have, and it's just the ability to understand why we're doing certain drills, how it's going to incorporate into a game, and then just the overall as a player, just my awareness in every given down." And I think the players are responding well. Okay, I was reading a bunch of articles. I've been really reading more about the Giants because it's usually I'd be so much more into the Giants because there's preseason, you're into it, but I think they said this has been the hardest training camp a lot of players they've ever had. But I think this team needs a Joe. And listen, maybe he's wearing on them. And I just told Trev, I said, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe
they need a kick in the ass. Maybe they've been the worst team in the past 3 years.
Maybe Monday night they'll come out, they're fired up, and play their best game. And if they don't, it's only going to be on their fault. It's not because their coach didn't get them prepared and ready to go. Because it seems like everything you read about this guy, everything is positive. Everything is productive. Everything is about getting better. Everything is about doing right. He came from two great coaches in Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. If you know anything about football, you know the legacy those two guys hold in their state of sport and college football. And
I don't want to get too much into the game. We'll do that on Monday.
No, I know that.
This team needs a kick in the ass. This team hasn't been good in a while. Okay. They haven't. They made the playoffs one time since their Super Bowl championship, okay? And let's see, they're 12-30. I'm just reading off why this team deserves the little kick, okay? I'm sick of this baby and stuff. They've been terrible with bad coaches. Sherman and McAdoo were not good. They've been 12-36 the past 3 years. The worst record in the NFL, by the way. That's not New York Giant football, okay? They need a dose of reality, okay? This is not kiddie play, okay? We're playing the Steelers, a team that is blue chip, is going to punch you in the mouth, and that's what Joe Judge said in his press conference. We're going to be a team that's going to punch you in the mouth. And this team, Joe, I 100% agree with you. You're getting ready for a very tough opponent on Monday Night Football, national TV, ESPN, everybody. The bright, I know, it's nerve-wracking.
We don't do well on national
television. The bright
television.
lights are going to be on you. 7:15 on ESPN, Daniel Jones, primetime. You have Saquon, you have Ingram, Shepard, Tate, Slayton. He's got all. Yes, played against Dallas last year, but it's the first time he has all of his weapons together. They need a kick in the ass. They need to let's go because this team, the black and yellow, ain't joking around. And you can see Judge Cumming Barkley over there. That's our captain. That's our leader. That's our franchise, along with Daniel Jones. There's no favorites on this team. Everybody is a New York Giant. We're all the same. We're going to be the best football team that we can, and that's what Joe Judge is trying to implement with this big blue team. Plain and simple. I have no issue. Joe, I 100% agree. They cannot be coming in lackadaisical against a team that's not coming in. They're hungry.
But I do understand where Joe's coming from, where it's, hey, listen, you're 4 days away from a game. You shouldn't be having – everything should be hunkering down, focusing, getting all the nitty-gritty. If you're still having issues like this, maybe there's a bigger issue within the team growing. But I can understand it, though. And I have seen it before personally. I've seen it on walkthroughs on a Thursday night before a game. I've seen it on a Friday before a college game. It shouldn't happen, but that's just because either – and I'll speak to this. It's usually in the middle of the season where you're strong and your focus is there, not the week before week 1.
100% agree. That's what Joe said. Joe said it should be happening like week 8 or something, not the first week of the first game of the regular season.
I'd even have felt better if you told me this happened on Monday. I could live with Monday or Tuesday. Hey, we had to restart practice, and we had Wednesday and Thursday. We busted our butts, but I don't want to hear that's the last practice. You all gearing up for a big game against Pittsburgh, and you came out so flat and so lackadaisical that Joe Judge, who's obviously a mental case, and thank God, shut things down. Let's restart it. That's
I wonder how bad it was, though. I wonder if it's one of those things where he's still trying to keep the hammer down on the nail, and you don't give up, and then what he'll say is
trying to send.
You know where you're so hard, and when that person succeeds, the person that was so hard on you is the first person there to give you the big hug. And I'm wondering if he's being so hard on them that when they win Monday night, he's going to be in the locker room like spraying them with champagne. You know what I mean? Just kind of like this is what I'm talking about. He's sending
a message, Joe. He's sending his message, and he's getting his message clear and precise through to the players, plain and simple. I want to close out with this before we get into the NBA. We talked about this briefly on Wednesday. We never got to finish, but it's one of the main questions that we've been wanting to talk about in this NFL season. It's about a new rivalry because no matter what, look, these guys don't have anything to prove, and the two names I'm talking about are Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And the reason they don't have anything to prove is because they don't need to. Their legacy is cemented. But we always are going to see, we always wanted to add, always the question, what have we been saying for years? What would it be like if Bill Belichick and Tom Brady went to different teams? What would it be like if they separated? Well, now we get the opportunity. Brady's in Tampa. Belichick is still the coach of the Patriots. We get to see it. They don't have anything to prove. But if you had to pick,
what's going to be proven is next year when they play each other. That's what's going to be nice.
But if you had to pick, who would you take? Would you have to say Belichick versus Brady? Who is more to prove this year? I know that these guys don't have anything to prove anymore. They're already the greatest at their specific position or coach. They already are. They've cemented
Tom Brady.
But more to prove, you would say, is Brady.
Yes.
Go ahead. Since you have it, give me your answer.
Well, look, we talked about last week. We did talk about when Matt Castle was the starter for that year, and they went 11-5, and they made the postseason anyway.
No, they didn't. That was the last.
Oh, that's right. They came up. That's right. They would have, and should have.
Not the Patriots.
Miami won
right. That year. Right. Ridiculous. So again, that was the worst year during the run. Was that one? I think for Tom Brady, the knock is always going to be that Belichick made Brady and not that Brady made Belichick. Bill Belichick was a great defensive coordinator and had obviously had a couple of coaching jobs before he got to the Patriots. Tom Brady obviously lost his starting job in college to Drew Henson.
Do you not feel it would be a split that Brady needed Belichick or Belichick needed Brady? Like, do you think it's more Brady needed Belichick? Without question?
I think the Patriots were already getting good. And again, I think he's proven he can win without him. He's proven he can win when Brady's old and ineffective. So Belichick is a genius, and I don't think that will ever change. And he'll only have more opportunities in the next 10 years to build on his Hall of Fame resume. For Tom, it's Belichick made you. Nobody wanted you in the NFL. Belichick made you. turned you into a superstar. You're a system quarterback. You still hear people say that. Whatever truth to it that there may or may not be, there's no disputing the greatness of Tom Brady. He's the greatest winner of all time. But can he do it without Bill Belichick? I think that's a question everybody wants to know. I don't think that it matters for Bill Belichick. If Bill never wins another Super Bowl, he's still the best coach ever. But for Tom,
well, you think if Brady never wins another one, he's still. Some people say he's not the greatest. Are you saying? Because if Brady's already got that cemented.
He didn't say that. He's just
I think if Tom can't do it on his own without Bill, and he's probably going to get maybe a year, maybe two in Tampa Bay, and then he'll ride off into the sunset. But if that team doesn't at least make a deep playoff run, then I think there'll be people who've already put it like this. It's people have already decided that Tom Brady's not the greatest of all time. They're looking for a reason to build off of that. Yeah. And this is all really subjective. I don't think, to me, the guy who's got the most at stake this year is Belichick's new quarterback, Cam Newton. I think these two are done and fine. This is like two old men having a pissing contest for absolutely no reason. They should have both retired after the Falcons game, and that should have been the last we saw of either one of them. There's no reason to continue playing like this. All that's going to happen for Tom Brady is what we've seen happen with Phillip Rivers and to a lesser extent, I think now Drew Brees, and especially with Eli, where you see that market drop-off. Is that how you want to go out, or do you want to go out at 36 and classy like Joe DiMaggio did so his fans would never see him not in his peak? It's a standard. Tom Brady can certainly play till he's 45, but he's on my fantasy team this year. He won't be when he's 45. I can promise you that.
He's pulling a Montana, though. I mean, Montana went to the Chiefs. I mean, never won.
That was disgusting and gross. I had the Sega Genesis football game with Joe Montana in the Chiefs jersey, and
did you trade him back?
Gross. It was weird. Trade him back to the Niners.
Is it weird to see Montana in a Chiefs uniform, or is it going to be weird to see Brady in a Buccaneer?
I'll tell you, the reason it wasn't as weird with Joe was because the jersey was pretty much the same color.
Oh, yeah.
To see Tom in like an orange jersey looks so stupid. I can't.
You don't like the creamsicle uniforms?
I can't, dude. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the Bucs because of how horrible they started, because their color, there's lavender puce, an interesting mix, But I've always had a soft spot in my heart. Remember in what was it, 2002 when they went to the Super Bowl, or 3?
Well, they won. They beat Oakland.
Yeah. I was, I don't usually root for another team in the Super Bowl. I actually really wanted to see Tampa. I actually bought a Tampa hat for that game. That's how much I have that softness in my heart for Tampa. When they went and got Tom Brady, I was like, screw Tampa.
How do you feel?
This is cheap. It's a cheap way to try to win. It's a cheap way to try to make your fans think you're interested. Why don't you draft a real quarterback and develop one?
Are we talking? Oh, they might have Josh Rosen. Are we talking about Mike Trout or Jacob deGrom right now? You're getting fired up.
There's certain people that really get under my skin.
Mike Trout, 16 home runs, leads the league.
He probably would hit 50 this year if there was 162 games.
And another MVP.
And once again, he'll be like me and watching the playoffs on TV.
Hold on, I think I took. Hold on, I gotta ask you a question.
I think I took a picture the other day. It was about Trout.
Hold on,
and
I'm asking you. He's
here it is.
Look at this,
Mike Trout.
Are we talking baseball right now?
Joe, listen to the category Mike Trout enters: 300 home runs, 200 stolen bases, and a 300 batting average or better. Only other people have done that: Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Larry Walker, and George Brett.
Listen, why don't we put Mike Trout?
We're not talking baseball. There's no baseball today.
But
I'll bring it back for you, Trev. Ready? Let's take Patty Mahomes and Mike Trout and let's stop playing sports and just put them in the greatest Hall of Fame of all time.
Why not?
Why not? People need to.
Bo Jackson should be in that. Bo Jackson should be in that.
Let me ask you something. What if next year Mike Trout hits like 244 with 13 home runs?
He's not Gary Sanchez.
No.
Gary Sanchez
Why do you say that? What do you mean he's not Gary Sanchez?
Because he's too good.
I disagree with that.
Guys, we're not talking. Guys,
hold on. Listen, my point is, these are young guys For us to be crowning Pat Mahomes like the best quarterback of all time, I'm just going to say it. It's an idiotic argument. Yeah. I understand the fun in having discussions. I don't mean you guys. I mean just all sports shows in general. You know, you especially before sports, we need these things to talk about during the football week. You need topics to talk about. Yep. But putting these guys who are under 30 into the GOAT discussion or into the Hall of Fame at this point is as premature as some of your Saturday nights when you were in high school. Okay. You're jumping the gun a little bit. You're jumping the gun. You're shooting your wad. Give this guy a chance to do it for 10 more years. That's an expression, Ted, and it doesn't necessarily mean that.
Joe, he's got some saying something.
Yeah, I know.
So with the answer, Joe says that. Hold on. To Trey's question, shut up.
I love this.
Tom Brady's the answer, and Joe, you're right. You know what they asked because Tom Brady, it's not that Belichick. Tom Brady needed him or he needed him. It's Bill Belichick a couple years ago wanted to get rid of Tom Brady. And he wanted Jimmy G because he knew Tom Brady was finished. And the last couple of years, Tom Brady hasn't played up to expectation. So for him to say, you know what, I'm still great and I don't need you and I can go to Tampa Bay, Tom Brady needs this because he needs to prove to himself and everyone else that staying around to 43, 44, 45 years old is worth it. And not saying, hey, you should have left 2 years ago when you were still great. Now you're good or above average. He needs it more. If Belichick goes 8-8 this year, you know what they're going to say? Doesn't have any offensive weapons. They lost Tom Brady. 8 players were out because of Corona. If Brady doesn't make the playoffs, there won't be any fault on Bill Belichick. If Tom Brady goes 8-8, it's going to be like,
what's the excuse?
We gave you Gronk, we gave you Godwin, Mike Evans, Fournette. You got Bruce Arians.
You are exactly right, Ted. It's all falls on Brady's shoulders. Belichick's got all the excuses already built in, and you know the best part about Bill is he will never ever say, "Well, we had guys out, I lost." He won't ever do that. And the best part is he knows it's already there. He knows we already all know that. So there's less on the line for Bill here. Again, if Tom Brady goes 8-8 or 9-7,
they're gonna ask one simple question: what's your excuse? What's the excuse? What was the excuse? Because you're going to have a number one running back in Fournette sooner or later. You have Ronald Jones. You have 3 great tight ends. You have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And I know I'm just saying
he's just reiterating at this point. And he should. That's a lot of weapons.
Here's the other thing. When Belichick and the Patriots, God forbid, and I know they won't because this won't happen because they're too good of a coaching staff, but say they go 4-12 or 3-13. And then they get Trevor Lawrence next year and get the next great quarterback. And then they're going to be like, Bill, you're a genius. You got rid of one go and you got rid of. I mean, it's like the Colts. You lost Peyton Manning, you got Andrew Luck. Like you lost Tom Brady, and next thing you know, you got Trevor Lawrence.
The Patriots are never going to tank under Bill Belichick.
But you know what I'm saying.
I've heard it said. I've heard some people speculate that so many of these Patriots are opting out at Bill's request. That he's been very like, look, if you don't want to be here, don't be here. Like he almost doesn't want them to really be there. He's not making them feel any pressure to be there.
He just doesn't. If you don't want to be here, don't be here. I'll find the next man up. It's always been his next man up mantra.
Yeah, but this year, if it doesn't pan out, he gets Trevor Lawrence. So
or Justin Fields, or the kid from North Dakota State, or if Cam Newton becomes like very good, then guess what? Then no, he's not going to keep Cam. He's going to ship Cam, and he's going to get draft picks for Cam, and he's going to be able to get assets, and he's going to flip it, and then he's going to turn that into another draft pick, and then you're just going to be like, oh my God, do you know what the Patriots are building?
He's playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers.
Bill Belichick cannot lose any of the 3 scenarios you just explained. He still comes out a winner unless Tom wins the Super Bowl this year, and he ain't. Bill wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's shift over to, like I said, we're going to talk about recap Monday, see how the Patriots do, how the new look Tampa Bay Buccaneers look as well in that big game against the Saints. Might not be playing the Cardinals and 49ers game. That's still TBD because of the California fires. So we'll see what happens with that.
You heard that how it happened, right?
It's terrible.
It's because it's some stupid.
What was because of the gender reveal?
A gender reveal party. Because California.
That's the main reason.
Californians got to have a big old soiree party.
It's terrible. But we'll see what happens. We'll have all that. Plus, we'll have a preview of Monday night.
Baby's going to be called Fire.
Fire. So let's shift over to the hardware. And right now, it looks like one of my teams right now. See, I'm a big Laker fan, as anybody knows. My Yankees are struggling, but I got hope for my LA Lakers. And last night, they go out to a convincing 3-1 lead. And it looks like the Battle of Hollywood is about to happen. The dream that all NBA fans have been wanting. You're getting the two best players, LeBron versus Kawhi.
You're getting the finals.
You're going to get the finals. And then the Eastern Conference could shape up to be the Heat against the Celtics or the Raptors, three teams that are all very similar in style of play. But last night, this is where I always love talking about the Houston Rockets because once again, and our boy Pete comes in, he said, Trey, you're right about James Harden. No crap. I know what James Harden is. He's a one-dimensional player. He is not a leader. He's not a guy you can trust when it matters the most. He's not that guy. And when asked the question, what happened to you? Why did you guys play so flat last night? He said, I don't know. How the hell do you answer that question? There's a reason why LeBron James is LeBron James. There's a reason why Chris Paul is Chris Paul and is so respected among his peers. And why maybe, like you said, Dad, OKC, maybe it would have been a tougher battle for the Lakers than the Rockets because of the size battle. They don't have no big guys. Their tallest guy is Robert Covington or PJ Tucker at 6'7", 6'8". The Lakers have Anthony Davis, McGee, Dwight Howard, Kyle
LeBron
Kuzma,
is 6'8".
I know LeBron. I'm just saying the bigger guys, but they have they have the size, they have the length.
Marcus
This
Morris
was always the big problem with the Rockets, the running gun type system with Mike D'Antoni. Had the smaller length. They trade Capella at midseason. Looked like an iffy trade. It's really panning out wrong for this Rockets team, and that's why I agree with you, Ted. I think OKC would have been a better matchup for the Lakers because of their defensive style. They had size, and just so happens that they have one of the best leaders in the league in Chris Paul.
It's not that it would have been a better matchup. I still think
a tougher matchup.
I think Houston would have been a tougher matchup because of the players that they have. They can score and put pressure. I just think what's killing Houston is the size, and at least OKC can provide Steven Adams and can provide some size. They were still really young. They're still a year away. I mean, I know you're talking about the Lakers right now, but just look at the other matchup with the Clippers and the Nuggets. The Clippers the Nuggets have everything too. They have great size. They just don't have Kawhi. I mean, Porter Jr. is going to be an up-and-coming star.
They don't have
Djokovic
Kawhi.
is a star. They talk about his passing game. Jamal Murray. They have all the
Kawhi
players.
and LeBron are on a mission.
Those two teams right there are a year or two away. The Clippers and Lakers are a veteran presence, both coaching staffs. I mean, you think about where they come from, the toughness, Doc Rivers and Vogel. You have all the pieces you want. You have superstars in Kawhi and Paul George, and then LeBron and Anthony Davis. You have great role players. It does hurt that Avery Bradley's out for them. But you see where the Lakers and the Clippers, since day one, we kind of knew this was going. If you were creating a basketball team, I think the Clippers are the most ideal team. They have everything. They have size, length, depth, talent, stars, leaders, coaching, you name it. They have the whole. Well, here's the Lakers have LeBron.
Hold on.
And that's such an X factor going forward.
You look at the Rockets and you look at the Nuggets. Both teams are very similar. They're good teams, very respectable teams in the NBA. But they're plain and simple not better than the Lakers. They're not better than the Clippers. They're in that second.
Yeah, because they don't have Kawhi and they don't have LeBron.
They're in that second or third tier of teams I'd say more second tier in the NBA. Whereas the Lakers and Clippers, those are the only two teams. The Bucks, record-wise, they were amazing. They just didn't have the pieces to do it. They had a better team last year with Brogdon. They lose a lot of players. Well, that's what. We're on the mush. Lakers, Clippers, Kawhi, and LeBron. They're on teams. They're teams on a mission. They're men on a mission. And that's what's going to make this fun. The moment LA signed Anthony Davis, the moment the Clippers got Kawhi and Paul George, we knew that this was going to happen. This was a matchup, the inevitable. It was going to happen. We were just waiting for it. Now, the Eastern Conference is very intriguing because you get Hollywood, you get the star power on the Western Conference side, and you get the blue chip, tough, hard-nosed, gritty players.
It feels like it's always like that, though, right?
No, but I know it's different because you look at the Heat, they got all the makings of a championship team. The Celtics, they have all the makings of a championship team.
They both have stars.
The Raptors don't. The only thing that's missing, this is where the loss of Kawhi Leonard really affects the Toronto Raptors. Because if Kawhi's on Toronto, we're putting Toronto as the favorite and maybe repeating again this year, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
But they don't. Kyle Lowry's been amazing. He's been incredible this postseason, and he's been very good since losing DeMar DeRozan, his best friend. But Pascal Siakam, we all thought this guy was going to take the next step of stardom. Well, he needs to start stepping up because the guys like Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the young guys, are the ones that are the stars. Kemba Walker needs to step up as well. Tonight's Game 7, the two best words in all of sports, Game 7, for a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals and a classic series it's been. It's been great. Last game, Game 6, Toronto fighting for their life, literally fighting for their life. Send it to Game 7 and a 125-122 matchup. It's been an incredible series. You had buzzer beaters. You had a classic in Game 6. It's been everything you wanted. This bubble, this playoffs, and this NBA restart has been incredible. I love what the Eastern Conference is doing. I can't wait for the Western Conference Finals. You get Kawhi, you get LeBron, but it's the two. We always talk about it. The series is over. I know they're both up 3-1. There's no way the Rockets or Nuggets are going to beat them 3 more times. It all comes down to, and I've been saying it, Anthony Davis versus Paul George. Because we know the Clippers have a better bench. We do know that. But Anthony Davis or Paul George, who's going to be the one to be the stars? Joe,
you know what Kawhi and LeBron's
have you been watching? Have you been watching a lot of the NBA playoffs?
I haven't watched a ton of it, but I'm certainly intrigued by the two LA teams. I think it's obviously great for the NBA. I think anytime you can get that sort of Hollywood glitz and to have both of them, good at the same time, that's something that I think the NBA has always wanted.
Plus Boston, if you get a Boston LA series,
you get Boston
LA. Imagine if the Knicks and the Nets
market.
ever both got good. That would be incredible.
If the Nets, they're going to be good when they get KD back. They're going to get DeAndre.
But here's the thing: if you have Toronto in it again, now you're talking. Okay, now you have a repeat champion, which is going to be intriguing. Plus, you got a whole country, and we saw what last year and how the Toronto Raptors fans,
react.
I mean, it was a whole country behind the team. It wasn't just a town, a city, a state. It was a whole country.
Well, another thing
that's got to be good for the NBA. Either way, I think it's a win-win with all the matchups. I think Boston LA is the most ideal matchup you would like to see.
Well, here's another, and I know it's going to be different this year because they're playing in a bubble. But just think of the markets that could be in it. I mean, Miami, the Celtics. Boston and Miami, huge markets, and then you got LA and LA.
Well,
and
then
you got a whole country as well. So the NBA can't lose.
Thanks for repeating what I said.
I always have to. Sometimes you forget. The NBA can't lose, Joe. Plain and simple. It's ever since it's restarted, it's been a massive hit. No matter what anybody wants to say about ratings or anything or not watching it, it's been a massive hit. It's been great. Baseball had their bump in the road, but it looks like they're going forward, and it's been going well. It's been going great, actually. Not for us Yankee fans, but it's been going great. And then the hockey playoffs have been going really good too. I mean, the Islanders look like they're about to be
lightning around a mission.
Yeah, they look like the best team. But all of these playoffs and sports have been great right now. And the NFL is just getting going. Starts off with a bang last night. The Chiefs look great. The Texans have a lot of work to do. Game 7 tonight. You got to do or die with the Nuggets. Do they stay alive, or do the Clippers etch their name into the conference finals?
Yankees got a doubleheader.
I know, 4:00 and then 8:00.
Another big series. I mean, listen.
Who would have thought, Joe? What did I say at the beginning? What did I say before the show started? Who would have thought?
Big game with Baltimore, in September. Imagine that. Jeez. Tanaka and Cole on the bump today, by the way.
We're at 43 games. We got 19 games left.
No,
or 17. 17. I can't. I don't know. We got 17. Well, if you got to make up games or stuff, I don't know. 17 games left.
Sanchez hitting $130. Would I say he's got to get to 230?
238. You said. So I said under 2. I said 240 was the limit, with the max limit. I said he was going to get under that. Joe, I'm sorry. It's just not happening.
When do you want your sandwich?
I got to get 2 of them, actually. When do you want to come over? I got to get 2. Yeah, when you coming over?
We'll get you over for a night. We'll do like a Friday night Yankee game. We'll watch at the house.
Would you? I got to ask. Would you want to come over? I know everything going on right now. Would you? That's
an
Don't worry, I'll bubble wrap Trev.
That's on a separate.
As long as you bubble wrap Trevor, I'll definitely come over. Yeah, I'm down. I'd be down for some social distancing football.
Sounds good, though.
Put it in the garage.
We'll put it in the garage, I guess. We'll put it in the bathroom. Here's the thing. The sports, everything is going well. I can't believe sports is actually playing, and all the major sports are playing full ahead. Like I said, we're going to have a preview show, Monday Night Football preview, plus a recap of Sunday's games. Monday, maybe we'll even be talking some New York Yankee baseball, see how they fare.
against the Baltimore Orioles. This might be it, boys.
Would have never thought I'd be saying that at the beginning of the year, but it's come to that. I know, Joe. It's come to that point. We'll talk. We'll see what happens. They got a massive doubleheader tonight. I still can't get over that. A massive doubleheader with the Orioles.
Let's just do it.
We'll talk about that on Sunday. We'll see how you said Tanaka and Cole are going?
Yeah.
Tonight, yep.
Did the Yankees win both today?
Paxton's hurt too.
Did the Yankees? Yeah. Like I said, we'll talk about all of that going on Sunday.
Sweet.
Is that a deal?
I'm in.
We'll see how the Yankees fare.
Have a great weekend, Joseph.
Joseph, thank you, my
guys.
man.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, we are streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. If you want new shirts, let us know. Cotton, dry fit. We're also going to be doing some hoodies again as well. If you want them, as a whole night t-shirt or collar shirt. Nobody ever wants these. These are nice too. These are nice and comfortable. These are nice. I like these. Hoodies, sweatshirts. It's coming that time, ladies and gentlemen. Summer's coming to an end, so we're looking to the fall. If you want some hoodies, let us know. We'll get you some nice new Keys to the City apparel. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
Streaming every